Welcome back. I'm going to be doing the chassis notches on the 106. If you've been around low cars before, you've probably heard of the term chassis notch. But if you haven't, I'll briefly explain it to you. The chassis is the main structure of any vehicle. It's what everything's built around. On front-wheel drive cars, the drive shaft runs underneath the chassis on the front. And once you lower them, the drive shaft angle is very aggressive and it tends to hit the chassis rail at the front, and that's not good. It prevents you from going any lower, and you shouldn't really drive if your drive shaft is hitting the chassis. It can cause all sorts of problems, and it's not good. So what you do, you take a notch out of the chassis so the drive shaft no longer hits it. You can go lower then with no problems at all, and you can drive it as you normally would. But I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so what we're looking at here is exactly what I've just explained. Because I've lowered the car so much, the drive shaft is in contact with the chassis rail. This is the chassis rail, this is the drive shaft, for those who don't know. So to get around this, I will notch this chassis rail so that this no longer comes into contact with it. And that means I can lower the car even more and I can drive the car without any problems. Just found this rust, annoyingly, but nothing I can't sort another day. Oh well, anyway. This is where the drive shaft was rubbing before, and I haven't even driven it far. I've only just moved it around the rear drive here outside the workshop. So this is the notch I want to do. That'll ensure the drive shaft has plenty of clearance. This might be an issue after it's done, mind. Actually, maybe not. Be fine. But yeah, not sure whether I'll hole saw it or I might just cut it out with a grinder. But it's quite hard to get to the other side now that the engine's in. But the engine needed to be in so that I could see where the notch needed to be. Otherwise, I'll just be guessing where the input is. You see what I mean? So I started off with a small hole saw, as you've seen. After that I cut the sides off and then Dremeled it all out just to make it a nice clean cut. What I'll do now is put everything back together, lower the car and see if any more needs to be cut out. Just as a comparison, this is the other side. That is sat on the drive shaft. just put the wing on this side. Much lower. The drive shaft isn't hitting anything, preventing it from going lower either. I've just wound the coilover right down just to see if I could still get away with that notch, and I can, which is brilliant. Because if I do decide to go this low, and I only notch for a certain height, then I'll have to notch again. So I thought if I do it on the lowest, then I won't have any problems in the future. This is the piece I will weld in, just to protect it from rusting and anything getting in the chassis rail. How's it go? Like that. As I weld it, I can knock it into place a little bit better, but yeah, and it's also just to put the strength back into it, I guess. It won't do much, but yeah, just it's more to protect it, and it's better than nothing. You don't just want to leave that. I'll show you that being welded in. One chassis notch complete. Covered that in epoxy primer. Looks horrible from the other side, but I couldn't really get to it. Yeah, but it's not bad at all. I've just put some built hamber Hydra AT rust prevention on these areas. There was this is all crispy from where it penetrated when I was welding in the raised mount. But I'll let the Hydra AT dry and then probably coat it in some black hammerite. I'll get to this, and I'll get to all this once, well, at a later date. I don't have time today, but yeah, I'll put all this side back together and then onto the other side. All back together there. I just had to cut away this bracket here, the brake line bracket, because otherwise the drive shaft would have hit it. But yeah, sprayed that up in epoxy primer. Decided to paint the notch in hammerite black as well, just to give it a bit more protection. It looks a lot better as well. But all back together. I am going to leave it as low as it will go for the moment and see how I get on. But on to the next side.
Tommy on the beat.
Passenger side chassis notch complete. I had to do the same with the bracket here as well. I'll show you what the car looks like when it's all back together on the floor. So bearing in mind this is as low as the front will go. What is digging into the ground is the bottom wishbones. I can grind them down to stop that, but I'm going to raise it a little bit anyway, just to move it around the yard bit out here. You can really see why or how crucial the engine raise is. I do love the front height. I think if I brought the rear down a touch more, ground down the wishbones there, I could get away with this height. I'm not sure, but does look good. That is all the fab work done on the 106. That is the engine mount raises and the chassis notches. It's quite a bit involved. It's not easy, especially if you don't have the know-how or the tools. But yeah, it just gives you an insight of what actually goes into it. And it, you know, you see these 106s and Saxos, and they're not low really. And if you know they have reverse rakes, so the rear end's lower than the front. Doesn't look great, but this is what goes into it. But I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.